Not every legend is born under bright lights. Some rise from silence, from small rooms the world barely notices, from lives shaped by limitation and uncertainty. This story begins long before roaring crowds and glowing stages, at a time when Elvis was simply a young boy trying to survive a harsh and unforgiving life. He was born into a modest family, in an environment where survival itself was already a daily struggle. There was no luxury, no promise of a better tomorrow. Each day passed with the quiet understanding that the next might be just as difficult, if not worse. The small house he lived in became a silent witness to dreams growing inside poverty. Rain hitting the roof often sounded louder than laughter, and the silence of night became a familiar companion. From an early age, he learned the meaning of loss. Life taught him that not everything could be owned, and not every desire would be fulfilled. Every step forward felt heavy, as though the world demanded him to grow up faster than he should have. He watched people around him struggle, fall, and rise again, never knowing if their efforts would ever be rewarded. His family's financial condition forced him to understand limitations far too soon. Clothes were worn repeatedly, meals were simple and sometimes not enough, and hope often felt thin. Yet in the middle of all this hardship, something quietly began to grow inside him, a deep connection to music, a refuge from a reality that often felt overwhelming. Music became his hiding place. Melodies and lyrics gave his emotions room to breathe. When the world felt small, sound was the only place where he could feel free. He didn't listen to music merely for entertainment, but as proof that something bigger existed beyond the life he was living. But that passion did not immediately bring hope. At school, he did not stand out in the way others admired. More often, he felt isolated. His music taste was different. His appearance was considered strange, and the way he expressed himself often invited ridicule. He learned early on that being different usually meant being misunderstood. School days were not filled with joy. He often felt invisible or painfully visible for the wrong reasons. Mocking glances and whispered judgments became part of his routine. Still, beneath it all, he carried a dream that refused to fade. It was simple, yet felt impossible: to be heard, to be recognized. As his teenage years arrived, the pressure of life grew heavier. Responsibilities increased while options seemed to shrink. He knew his family could offer little, and he never blamed them. Instead, a deep sense of responsibility grew inside him, a desire to help, even though he didn't yet know how. He began working at a young age, taking whatever jobs he could find to earn even a small income. Every day reminded him that life waited for no one. Physical exhaustion became normal, and mental fatigue often weighed even more heavily. Yet even after long, draining days, music continued to call him back. In rare, quiet moments, he sang. Not for big stages, not for applause, but for himself. Singing became a way to survive, a way to say that he still existed, that his dream was not dead. His voice was not perfect, but his emotion was real. There was honesty in every note he released. The road toward his dream, however, was never straight. He tried to introduce himself, to show what he could do, only to be rejected again and again. Rejection didn't come once or twice, it came repeatedly. Each time hope appeared, reality quickly tore it down. He was told he didn't fit, wasn't good enough, or was simply too different. There were nights when he walked home with heavy steps, carrying more doubt than belief. Moments when he questioned whether his dream was nothing more than an illusion. The world seemed to tell him that he didn't belong there, that he should accept a simple life and stop reaching for more. But beneath the doubt, something refused to die. A quiet inner voice urging him to hold on just a little longer. He didn't know where the next step would lead, but he knew that giving up was not something he could accept. His social life was no easier. He often felt alone, even in crowded rooms. Few people truly understood what he felt. Loneliness became a familiar presence, and in that loneliness, he began to understand himself more deeply. He learned to listen, to feel, and to pour everything into his voice. Every painful experience shaped him. Every rejection strengthened his endurance. Every difficult day added emotional depth that would later be heard in every song. Without realizing it, those dark years were forming something far greater than a personal dream. He began to dream bigger, though fear still surrounded him. He knew opportunities rarely came twice, and when they did, he had to be ready. Preparation was not only about skill, but about mindset. The ability to stand after falling, to believe in himself when no one else did. Nothing around him changed quickly. Life remained hard, money remained scarce, and the future stayed uncertain. But slowly, his perspective shifted. He stopped seeing hardship as an ending and began seeing it as part of the journey. Every small step forward began to matter. There were moments when he nearly gave up entirely, when exhaustion and disappointment piled so high that the dream felt unreachable. But every time that happened, music pulled him back, as if reminding him why he had endured this far. He started performing in small places, with no promises beyond the chance to sing. Not always welcome, not always appreciated, but each experience built his courage. Every small stage taught him something big. Gradually, he began to discover his own voice, not just technically, but emotionally. He stopped trying to be like anyone else. He sang in his own way, with his own feelings, with a story shaped by real hardship. Those dark years never truly left his memory. Even as hope began to appear, the shadows of the past remained. But that was where his strength came from. He knew what it felt like to be at the lowest point, and he never wanted to return there. When the world finally began to notice him, it wasn't luck alone. It was the result of years of silent endurance, of patience under pressure, of belief that nearly died but never fully disappeared. The world saw the result, not the long journey filled with wounds. These were Elvis's dark years, rarely spoken of, yet the foundation of everything that followed. A reminder that behind every legend is an ordinary human being who once hurt, once doubted, and once nearly gave up, but chose to believe one more time. And from that choice, history was changed.